Start to come out, but what happened to General Flynn should never happen again in our country.
Flynn had twice pleaded guilty to lying to federal prosecutors about contacts he had with a Russian diplomat during the election meddling probe. A federal prosecutor testifying today that he withdrew from the case of Trump ally Roger Stone because
I am off air, right? Okay. All right, folks, we are live on Facebook already, getting ready to start here in about 2-3 minutes, so we'll fire up here soon.
.402 on News Talk 710 KURV. Good afternoon, I'm Tim Sullivan. Authorities searching a property in La Feria in connection with the case of a missing Harlingen attorney have turned up human remains. Harlingen police had secured a search warrant for the property along Kansas City Road Tuesday in reference to the 3-year-old investigation into the disappearance of Ernesto Gonzalez. An autopsy has been ordered to confirm the identity of the remains and to determine the cause of death. Gonzalez's family members reported him missing July 18, 2017. He was reportedly last seen at his South F Street law office. Well, looks like Governor Greg Abbott has gotten the message from county judges in the Valley and elsewhere in Texas. Abbott is giving local leaders a little more authority to try to rein in a faster spreading coronavirus.
On Tuesday, Governor Abbott expanded the ability of mayors and county judges to impose restrictions on outdoor gatherings of over 100 people. That's pared down from 500 back on June 3rd.
Maintaining a level of flexibility is important in a state the size of Texas with 254 counties, but with an emphasis, wherever possible, to make sure that the right strategies are in place to make sure that we are slowing the spread of COVID-19.
Abbott also directed the Health and Human Services Commission to enact emergency procedures over child care centers. In Austin, Chris Fox, News Talk 710 KURV.
Texas on Tuesday for the first time saw nearly 5,500 new coronavirus cases in a single day. The spike pushed the total number of Texans who have tested positive for COVID-19 to more than 120,000. In addition, the death toll grew to more than 2,200. Among the counties with the highest number of cases, the huge increase in the people testing positive in Hidalgo County in recent days has moved it up one more spot to 13th on that list. Cameron County remains at number 17, and there are now only a dozen counties in Texas that have not reported at least one case of COVID-19. Answering questions from a House committee on Capitol Hill Tuesday, Dr. Anthony Fauci, the nation's top infectious disease expert, said the next couple of weeks are going to be critical in Texas and other states trying to curtail an alarming spike in new cases. Well, if you're feeling any more comfortable about flying to your destination this summer, you still may find it a sobering experience in more ways than one.
Once on board, there are some big changes. A number of airlines, including Texas-based American, have banned alcohol sales in economy class, which is the majority of the plane. Paul Hortarn with the Association of Professional Flight Attendants says they support the move.
To reduce the customer touch points, not having to take their credit card, less contact with the customer, if you will. So we would be supportive of that.
Instead, airlines are handing out goodie bags to travelers before they get on board, which are filled with snacks and hand sanitizer.
TSN's Michael Board. Your 710 KURV exclusive AccuWeather forecast. Partly cloudy tonight, lows in the upper 70s. Tomorrow and Friday, mostly cloudy, not quite as warm. And again, some showers or thunderstorms, and some could be heavy. A high of 94 tomorrow, 89 on Friday. Right now, 92 at 710 KURV. News at the top and bottom of the hour, and when it breaks, and on demand at KURV.com. I'm Tim Sullivan, 710 KURV.
This KURV special is powered by Bert Ogden and Fiesta dealerships of the Rio Grande Valley.
Well, look who it is.
Here's Sergio Sanchez.
Appreciate you tuning in. Today's edition on 710 KURV made possible by the Bert Ogden Auto Group, specifically the family over at Mazda, Subaru, Kia, and Volvo. I'm Sergio Sanchez, along with Drive Home show host Roxanne Flores. Our guest today, Ed Campirano, Port Director at the Rio Grande Valley's Port in Brownsville. Barry Patel, former South Padre Island mayor and owner of several properties on South Padre. His perspective on tourism at the moment is quite keen. And Mario Lozoya is executive director for the Greater Brownsville Incentive Corporation, GBIC. We want to welcome aboard this hour's participation of our sister station, Classic 92.7, on South Padre Island. It will just be a 1-hour broadcast, gang. So everybody's going, hey, what happened to all the music on 92.7? It's okay, guys. Today's special edition on KURV is very Cameron County and Brownsville centric. It's for all the valley, but we're focusing today on where the new economy of the Rio Grande Valley will be rising very soon, which is Brownsville. It is the Port of Brownsville. It is the island as well, with everything taking place. That's where we're going, very Brownsville-centric on the economy today. So, Classic 92.7 audience, thank you for joining us. We'll be with you for just 1 hour. And also, I was told by my producer, Fred Cruz, that I need to say good afternoon and send a big hug and a kiss to all our family in Laredo, listening to us by KLNT. So I'm going to now defer over to our show host, Drive Home show host, Roxanne Flores, and she's got the question for our panel. Go ahead, Roxanne.
Organization from Brownsville. So in the conversation of COVID and the like, you can imagine how these EDCs operate through taxpayer dollars in terms of retail taxes. So when the retail taxes are down, our incentive dollars are down, right? So that's one of the concerns. And I'll start by answering the questions of pre-COVID, during, and after. So before, we were in that window of the unknown, and everybody was waiting for the ratification of the USMCA, the new NAFTA, the trade agreement between Canada, US, Mexico. So all that was on hold. And for the last year and a half, foreign direct investments was somewhat in pause, because everybody was waiting for the ratification of those documents so that we can understand how we're going to do trade. And all of a sudden, when we're about to ratify the USMCA, boom, here comes COVID. So that window of pause, that window of wait, is essentially was extended, right? So so we're there now. So the post-COVID, everybody was waiting and preparing for the USMCA ratification. All of a sudden, we're about ready to go. As a matter of fact, it goes live in 1 July. I think people are not keeping track of that, right? But in 1 July, USMCA goes live. So you have here foreign direct investments saying, like, we're ready to go, but our current condition of COVID might not let us go, right? So that's the issue. That's the challenge right now, and it's very complex. I'll tell you that right now, most EDCs, especially the ones that have, they're in the border region, because as you know, the border regions are not the rich counties, right? Like North Dallas and the like. So we use these retail tax dollars to incentivize companies that are looking at communities. But when you're forecasting a 20% decrease or so on your retail taxes, that kind of puts a hamper on your plans on how you're going to incentivize companies, right? So that's we're navigating through that. What can we do to
In other words,
find ways
it shrinks
to
your piggy bank, right, Mario? You have less incentive money to work with.
yeah, it drains
Which
our
everybody's in the same boat
resources.
statewide. Every EDC is in the same boat statewide, right?
Everybody's in the same boat.
Okay.
So when you see the charts, you know, it takes a keen eye to better understand what are the resources available for that community now based on those based on their COVID condition.
All right. That's
So
Mario Lozoya is Executive Director of Greater Brownsville Incentives Corporation, GBIC. In other words, the economic development arm for a recruitment of industry and big business to Brownsville. I want to ask you real quick before we go to our other guests, because of the issues raised by COVID and all the pharmaceuticals, medical equipment, everything that is produced in China. All of a sudden, we discovered that we're short on everything produced in China. Is that perhaps providing you an opportunity for recruitment? Where it seems like the battle cry is to repatriate a lot of that stuff to the U.S.
Yeah, so it's actually, you're right. So there's some silver lining, right? So the COVID, what it did, it exposed the weaknesses of global economics. The bigger organizations were used to global supplier networks, but it has caused a supply disruption. So the supply disruption is hurting businesses. And at the same time, knowing that the USMCA is going live in 1 July, there's a lot of activity. To tell you that in the last 2 weeks, we have here personally in our communities, some people from China and some people from South Korea, because we are vetting these conditions to see how we can help them reshore, to your point, to the border region. Everybody's all excited about what's happening on the border. They're ready to invest, but we are in this particular pause condition based on COVID. So to your point, this condition has exposed two things. One is the supply disruption, that's typically global supply disruption. Everybody's looking now at a regional and local supply chain. So that's going to take a lot of work. And also the fact that USMCA is going live in July.
You're listening to a special broadcast from the studios in McAllen of News Talk 710 KURV. We say good afternoon to our sister station, Classic 92.7 FM, South Padre Island, and our family in Laredo at KLNT. The topic of this hour's conversation, RGV, working with COVID-19. Our guest, Barry Patel, former mayor of South Padre Island, and he's a property owner on the island, several properties. Mario Lozoya, as you just heard, is executive director of the Greater Brownsville Incentives Corporation. His office is the arm that is in charge of recruiting industry to the area. Ed Campirano is the director of the Rio Grande Valley's port, as I like to refer to it, or port at Brownsville. Chief, I'll go to you next. Ed Campirano, before the COVID shutdown, boy, we were tracking and all excited about the possibility of the arrival of liquefied natural gas, billions of dollars in investment. And as Davis and I were talking off air before that, it seemed like it was a big wedding. And the caterer had been booked, the photographer, everybody was ready. And then we had to put a pause on the wedding because of COVID, everything shut down. So if you could take us through your experience, Chief, at the Port of Brownsville, where the economy of the valley will rise here in the near future, before, during, and after the COVID situation. What happened at the port?
Well, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for the opportunity. Listening to Mario, we kind of find ourselves in kind of two areas. The great thing about some of the things we do is that, the best case for whether or not you're doing well is, are your existing customers growing? And, so part of it is, we do have a very We have an existing customer base that is growing. Even in this process, they're continuing to expand their facilities. And a lot of that has to do with really on what we do and how we service, and primarily the impact as it relates to the trade with Mexico. A lot of that is really focused on our liquid trades, where a lot of the gasoline, the premium gasoline, a lot of the low sulfur grade diesel, a lot of the refined products. That market has really hadn't slowed down. We see expansion in our facilities. We see millions of dollars of growth going on. And then we have the other part of what we do, which is what you talked about, the large projects. Those projects that take a long time to bring together, a long time to percolate. And to some degree, you have COVID-19, but you also have the perfect storm of the situation in the energy economy. So, from that perspective, while we have not seen our traditional trade slow down, in fact, last year was a great year for us, the best year we ever had. And this year, we're trending to have an even better year. But when we start looking at those large projects, when we start looking at those that are really impacted, they take a long time to come to be, you are right. The pandemic has slowed that down. I think a lot of these decisions are going to be, decision dates are going to slide. We probably are not going to see FID for the majority of these large projects made in 2020.
FID final investment decision for
2021.
LNG. FID final investment decision.
Final investment
for LNG.
decision.
Yeah.
But the other thing too about these projects is the economic situation with the energy market. Perfect storm with the situation with Russia and Saudi Arabia. That's had a huge impact. But at the end of the day, you got to remember is that these projects are not short-term projects. They're not in it for the short game. These are projects that, while they have to have access to market and they have to have access to capital, these projects are looking at the timeline in 2023 and 2024. That's when they actually would mature and actually begin to produce a commodity that's hitting the market. So I think at this point, what we're waiting on is to see, okay, how is the market going to react? We're seeing some positive movement in the energy market. You're going to see that impact global markets. The COVID-19, in my opinion, is you have a lot of available inventory, whether it's in Europe, whether it's in Asia. That economy is going to have to come back to go through those inventories of spot markets that are available today. And once that happens, you're going to get back to where we were before, and that is, okay, we begin to look at the long game. What is going to be the situation with gas prices, oil prices? And so while we remain optimistic, work is still continuing. It is of concern that, how long will this last?
All permits came in, right, Chief?
Be able to weather the storm.
Pretty much all permits came in, right, that we needed from...
The permits are in, and those permits are not going away because of the pandemic. They're not going away because we have a one-year lull in the market. Those permits will be in place for a period of time. Whether they're permits with the FERC or permits with the Corps of Engineers or agreements that have been reached. Those are not short-term in nature. So, like I said, we remain optimistic. We have to keep an eye on the short term and the benefits that will come with that. But, will that turn the market around, and will we begin to see projects that are waiting to have access to capital to be able to proceed? But we remain active and working with the LNG projects. Same goes true with the steel project. And those discussions, continue. There's optimism going forward. And again, a lot of it is going to be a wait and see game.
And for folks who don't know this, in previous conversations we had with Ed Campirano, who you just heard, he is the director of the Port of Brownsville, the Rio Grande Valley's port. They never shut down. COVID came, COVID shut down society, but they were deemed essential. Everything kept coming, flowing, ebbing back and forth at the Port of Brownsville. They have not shut down through this entire process, and I hope we don't have another shutdown in the near future. We can visit that possibility, as there's a lot of talk about hospitalizations going up. We also need to visit issues related to tourism, changes in business practices, and we might even touch on the Mexico factor as the international bridges continue shut down for tourism travel by vehicle. You are listening to a special edition on News Talk 710 KURV. This is the mothership right now, broadcasting. The title of our special news program, RGV Working with COVID-19. I'm Sergio Sanchez with Roxanne Flores, Davis Rankin. They are the host of the Drive Home program on News Talk 710 KURV. And our guest this afternoon talking about economic issues in this new COVID economy. Ed Campirano, Port Director at Brownsville. Barry Patel, who we will hear from next. He's the former mayor of South Padre Island and owner of several properties on the island. And you also heard from Mario Lozoya, Executive Director of the Greater Brownsville Incentives Corporation. Stick around if you have any questions. Your questions will be submitted off air at 800-580-TALK, 800-580-8255. Email me, sergio@kurv.com. Today's program made possible by Bert Ogden Auto Group. Today's KURV special edition is made possible by BertOgden.com. From the Bert Ogden family, he represents Mazda, Subaru, Kia, Volvo. General Manager Jeff Malden joining me right now. Summer of the SUV, and I suspect some more families might be taking staycations, doing a little bit more driving. So tell me about some of the SUVs that you have, and I know you have plenty of inventory of right now over at Bert Ogden.
Yeah, most popular ones that we're dealing with now, Sergio, are obviously the third row SUVs. From the Volvo lineup, that would be the XC90. In Subaru, that's their new Ascent. And for Mazda, that's going to be a CX-9. And with the Kia brand, we've got the Sorento and the Telluride. Most of these third row vehicles are going to be very similar in size. So they've got room enough in the third row for a good-sized adult. So you can comfortably put 6 people in these vehicles and allow them to move around. All of them now have all of the standard safety features that people would expect, from blind spot monitoring to lane keep assist that would keep you from drifting when you're watching your cell phone and not paying attention, to making sure that they're staying in the lanes, to autonomous cruise controls and rear cross traffic alerts. If you're backing out of the parking lot at HEB or Walmart, you don't hit the guys coming too fast behind you. All of those features that people have come accustomed to are on all these models. Just about on every single one of these, those features have now become standard. It's hard to find many of these vehicles that don't have them. And then vehicles like the Volvo and the Subaru come with the autonomous braking features, so that there's something in front of you that's going slower or stop, they'll stop the car for you completely.
Yeah.
There's some really, really neat technology that is now being incorporated into these vehicles.
Does that technology need to be engaged, or is it automatic once you hit cruise control, you hit the highway?
For a lot of these vehicles, it's automatic when you turn the vehicle on. You can disengage it, but you have to actively select to turn it off.
I see.
So like these autonomous braking features, the blind spot monitoring features, the lane keep assist features, they automatically turn on when you start the vehicle.
It's the summer of the SUV. Visit BertOgden.com. Run a search for Subaru, Kia, Mazda, and Volvo.
710 KURV is operated by our communications group.
Audio streaming on KURV.com. Powered by South Texas Buick GMC, McAllen Mission.
It's a special edition news broadcast from the studios of News Talk 710 KURV in McAllen. We welcome aboard our family of stations, Classic 92.7 on South Padre Island, and also 1490 AM KLNT in Laredo. I'm Sergio Sanchez, along with Drive Home KURV show host Roxanne Flores, Davis Rankin. Big thank you to the Bert Ogden Auto Group for making this show possible today. We're talking about working with COVID-19. Ed Campirano from the Port of Brownsville. You heard from him. Also, you heard from Mario Lozoya, Executive Director of the Greater Brownsville Incentives Corporation. And by the way, we are also broadcasting live on Facebook. 710 KURV Facebook is where you find the broadcast. You can onboard comments and questions there as well. Let me go to Davis Rankin, our Drive Home show host. He's got a question for Mayor Barry Patel.
Thank you very much. Mayor, you own several hotels on the island. And we're sure the rooms were cleaned before COVID-19 arrived, but what's the menu now that you have to do to make sure people are comfortable staying with you?
Hi, Davis. Good to see you.
Good to see you.
Thanks for having me here today. Good afternoon to everybody. And greetings from South Padre Island, beautiful South Padre Island.
Yes, sir.
What we have, I'll just let you know what we've implemented. We've implemented right across all our hotels something called a program known as Stay Safe. That's a program that Hilton came up with. They during the month of April, and May, they worked with the Mayo Clinic and Lysol, the company that makes Lysol, and came up with a program, and they call it Stay Safe program. It's a very good program that it basically takes you all the way from checking in, making a reservation, to the time that you check out, and all the procedures that are followed during your stay, where you can walk straight past the front desk, straight up to your room, use your phone to actually open the lock to your door, check into your room, and everything will be ready for you. When you stay, during your stay, the room service is done in such a way that there is no person-to-person contact. There's all kinds of options for guests as they check in, how we're going to do the cleanup in the room, and so there's several things like that that we have implemented. And then you've got the food and beverage side of things. Hilton's and a lot of our hotels, like the Embassies, are known for their huge buffet breakfast. Gone are the days now, at least for the time being, where you could have that. So we've implemented a basically a same breakfast that's served from behind the counter, to a guest. They basically write down what they're looking for. They hand off a slip, and then our back staff gets everything together in a takeout container that you can then take to your room and have the same quality of food, but the service is now changed to where it's more, basically it's more septic, it's clean, where there's no person-to-person contact. The food goes straight up to your room. So there's several things that we have already implemented. And of course, the regular things that the governor has stressed that we do: wear masks, have your social distancing rules around the swimming pool, around the restaurants, etc. So, and also we've taken a completely different look at room service now. Gone are the days where you get that big tray, a person comes in your room, opens up your plates and everything, and they serve it for you. Now it's basically you order the food, but it's served to your door, and the person walks away. You can actually follow the person on your app, your Hilton or Marriott app, where you know that the food is outside your door, and once the person is gone, you pick it up, take it in, and enjoy. The good thing is all our rooms are also on South Padre Island, accommodate big families. So we've always had the huge tables, and and in the past where you use those tables to play cards and things like that in the evenings. Now there people use that to actually use for food and things like that. So there's several things, Davis, that we've actually implemented on South Padre and the other hotels that we have in McAllen and up in Austin, that makes it a very safe way to stay in hotels. I think there's going to be a revolutionary change, a huge change, in how hospitality will tackle this problem. Hospitality has been through a lot. I mean, we had, over the years, we had 9/11 that kind of shut down all travel and all kinds of tourism. On South Padre Island, we've had many, many storms. We've kind of survived that. We've had the bridge collapse for 3 months. We survived that. And I think we're gearing up, or we have geared up to survive this too. I mean, and actually flourish and do a better job, a more cleaner job moving forward. Because even if we tackle this issue, I think this is something that's really awakened the whole industry to get ready for something like this.
10-4. We'll get a status report. I know, Roxanne, you got a question. Hang on to that real quick. We're at a hard break at the bottom of the hour. We'll go ahead and pay some bills. You just heard Barry Patel, a former South Padre Island mayor and property owner on the island. Barry, if you in 20 seconds give me real quick the 4 properties you have on the island. Real quick, tell me which ones are they?
We have the Marriott, the La Quinta, the La Copa, the Hilton.
All right. I'll let you sell them a little bit more when we come back in just a little bit. As Barry Patel, former mayor of South Padre Island, our expert panel includes Ed Campiano, director of the Port of Brownsville, the Rio Grande Valley's port, Mario Lozoya from Economic Development Efforts at Brownsville, Greater Brownsville Incentives Corporation. I'm Sergio Sanchez with the KURV team. You're listening to a special broadcast on News Talk 710 KURV, also Classic 92.7 FM South Padre and 1490 AM KLNT Laredo. Working with COVID-19. The news is next.
Top and bottom of the hour news. This is News Talk 710 KURV.
4:31 on News Talk 710 KURV. Good afternoon. I'm Tim Sullivan. A Republican policing bill has hit a roadblock. Senate Democrats today voted against it, calling it inadequate. Democrats want greater changes in police tactics and accountability and are being backed by leading civil rights groups. The House is set to approve the Democratic bill tomorrow. A federal appeals court has ordered the dismissal of the criminal case against President Trump's former national security advisor, Michael Flynn. The Circuit Court of Appeals for the District of Columbia ruled today the Justice Department's decision to abandon the case against Flynn settles the matter, even though Flynn pleaded guilty to lying to prosecutors in Special Counsel Robert Mueller's Russia-Trump collusion investigation. The Justice Department is being accused of giving favorable treatment to former Trump consultant Roger Stone. Stone was convicted of 7 crimes in November, including obstructing that Russia-Trump collusion probe. Prosecutors recommended a sentence of 7 to 9 years. Stone was sentenced to just 3 years. A former prosecutor on the case telling Congress today the Justice Department gave Stone, quote, favorable treatment because he was a Trump ally. Americans are unlikely to be allowed into Europe when the continent reopens its borders next week because of the flare-up in coronavirus cases in the U.S. The EU wants to open up July 1st, and member nations are debating what criteria should apply when choosing who should be let in. Hundreds of thousands of dollars in coronavirus relief payments have been sent to people behind bars across the U.S., and the IRS wants the money back. The IRS is telling state officials to claw back the cash it says was mistakenly sent. The International Monetary Fund has sharply lowered its forecast for global growth this year because it envisions far more severe economic damage from the coronavirus than it did just 2 months ago. The IMF predicts the global economy will shrink 4.9% this year. For the United States, the IMF predicts the nation's gross domestic product will plummet 8% this year, more than its April estimate of a 5.9% drop. And stocks slumped on Wall Street today after new coronavirus cases in the U.S. hit their highest level in 2 months. Dow Jones closing down 710 points. NASDAQ dropped 222. S&P 500 fell 81. Your 710 KURV exclusive AccuWeather forecast. Partly cloudy tonight, lows in the upper 70s, and tomorrow, mostly cloudy, not quite as warm, and also showers and thunderstorms are likely and some could be heavy. A high of 94 tomorrow. Right now it's 94 at 710 KURV. News at the top and bottom of the hour and when it breaks and on demand at KURV.com. I'm Tim Sullivan, 710 KURV.
Jeff Malden, one of the general managers with the Bert Ogden family, represents Kia, Subaru, Mazda, Volvo. We're talking about some SUVs for summer, as you might be going on vacation with the family, doing a little bit more driving. What's the technology that just blows your mind?
One of the neatest features that just came out that I really like is the Telluride has something called Driver Talk. It's very difficult if you've ever been in a large SUV or a minivan and you've got three couples, 6 adults, and you're trying to have a conversation as the driver. You can't communicate with people in the back. You can't, and you don't want to yell over your shoulder or take your eyes off of the road, but you want to be engaged if you're out, some couples having an evening or something like that. You hit a button on the infotainment system, and it takes the microphone that is utilized for the Bluetooth phone settings, and it broadcasts your conversation to the rear speakers. So the people sitting in the back can hear you talk without you screaming, and then obviously they can just speak forward, and you can have that conversation without having to take your eyes off the road, without being distracted, and without having to yell.
That's a good one. Yeah, that's a good one. I can see also it helped a mom or dad who needs to shush the kids in the back, broadcast it. Don't make me go back there.
Well, and also you can get past their AirPods and their Beats headphones, and you can actually get them to hear you.
There we go. One feature that I do remember talking about is the standard safety features. Like literally, everybody's surrounded by airbags, like 4 or 5-star ratings.
Actually, the newest buzzword now for a lot of the auto manufacturers from a safety standpoint is all-wheel drive and having maximum control. The days of only needing an all-wheel drive system or four-wheel drive system if you're going to go out to the ranch or the dealers and stuff are kind of over. Subaru, every vehicle that they manufacture is all-wheel drive. 90% of the vehicles that Volvo manufacture are all-wheel drive, and they're touting that for control, for safety. These safety features that are out there are only as good as the ability to control the vehicle. And if you don't have traction, automatic braking doesn't work. If you don't have traction, the lane keep assist doesn't work as well. That's one of the things that a lot of the manufacturers are really moving towards. Mazda has increased their all-wheel drive lineup and started to put all-wheel drive features on their sedans. Kia's doing the same thing. In fact, their new Seltos, their little crossover vehicle, the entry-level one comes standard with all-wheel drive at like $22,000. Actually, Sergio, that's probably been the biggest shift, I would say, in automotive manufacturing now is to the all-wheel drive platform.
Financing options are amazing. Drive away with your family in safety and comfort aboard a brand new Subaru, Kia, Mazda, or Volvo SUV from the Bert Ogden Group. Learn more at bertogden.com.
Our call letters, KURV. Our frequency, 710 AM. Our specialty, news and talk. News Talk 710 KURV and KURV.com.
You're listening to a special news broadcast working with COVID-19. As you heard, the mothership is News Talk 710 KURV in the Rio Grande Valley of Texas. We welcome Classic 92.7 on South Padre Island. We'll be with you for just a few more minutes. We'll change back at 5 o'clock. And we also welcome our family in Laredo. Big hug and a kiss to our family in Laredo. KLNT 1490 AM. Working with COVID-19. I'm Sergio Sanchez with the KURV crew. We got Roxanne Flores, our show host, along with Davis Rankin, also our show host. The contributors today in this economic talk, Ed Campirano from the Port of Brownsville, Barry Patel, former South Padre Island mayor and owner of properties on the island, Mario Lozoya, executive director of GBIC, Greater Brownsville Incentives Corporation. I know Roxanne had a question, and a reminder to you, in case you have a question, get it to Fred Cruz, our producer, at 800-580-TALK. Go ahead, Roxanne. I know you had a question for the mayor.
I did. Mr. Patel, thank you for joining us. I know before the break you were talking to us about the differences, the incentives, or the changes, I should say, you've made during this time in your hotels. My question to you is, what do you plan on keeping permanent out of all you mentioned safety measures, you mentioned health, food and beverage changes. What's one thing you would think you want to keep permanent once this is all over?
I think moving forward, even if we 5 years from now, for example, we look at what are the things that we're going to carry forward. I think the things that are with the Stay Safe program in the rooms are not just exclusive for, I think, this period. I think we want to continue with that. The other things, right now we implemented we give free masks for our employees. And basically to force them, make them understand, we staple the mask to their paycheck so they understand no mask, no paycheck. So we want to continue with that too. So there's some of these things that I see now that I think just for pure hygiene, we're going to continue and until it becomes a terrible inconvenience. And I don't think it will. I think people are becoming very perceptive of what's going on. And so as we move in the future, some of the things that we're doing right now in cleaning the rooms now, all this stuff has increased the cost of doing business quite a bit. But I think overall it pays off on the long run because behind the COVID-19 we had the SARS epidemic and we didn't kind of take notice of that much. Before that we had the MERS, which was the Middle East virus that came through. So all these things were going through the industry, and the hospitality industry was affected greatly in Singapore, in Hong Kong. And if you travel to those parts, and I did, a lot of people were wearing masks in hotels. A lot of people were, and our room was completely, we had Lysol and all kinds of stuff being used. And I always wondered what this was all about. Why we don't do it here. But those are the things that I think we're going to continue. Yeah. They did continue these things in Singapore and Hong Kong.
Yeah, those are good hygienic business practices. Yeah. Mayor, with Mexico closed, standard tourism, car traffic, back and forth, family visits, and just shopping is not happening for another month, till the end of July at least. Might be extended again. From what I gather and what I hear as far as how full the island is, all the hotels seem to be busy. People just have cabin fever and going to the island, escaping. And I'm wondering if maybe that's leading a little bit into the increase of all these cases that are being reported in Cameron County. Do we even need Mexico right now for business on South Padre Island for tourism?
I think we always need Mexico, and trade with Mexico is very important. What Mario just said and Ed just said about USMCA and all these things were factored into our projections for this year, and especially in McAllen, we were expecting a lot of business from USMCA across the border trade. Having said that, if you take South Padre Island in particular, I would say yes, it is a blessing that Mexico is not open right now, because once the borders open, we will see a lot of people coming on to South Padre Island, where the hotels are already at pretty good 70, 80, 90% occupancy. So I think that's a blessing. But if you talk to the other communities in the Rio Grande Valley, all the way from Laredo up to Brownsville, I think they would say exactly the opposite, that we do need trade with Mexico now, and we do need the border open for shoppers to come into McAllen and go to the malls, and same with Brownsville. So, there's a little self-interest on my part, but I'm sure that the others would disagree in saying that, no, we do need Mexico right now.
No, and if you see the sales numbers, McAllen, which is the lead market retail, 2-to-1 margin compared to Brownsville right now, 30% lower during the shutdown. I know South Padre, our family in South Padre, 60%, almost 60% for the month of April, lower in sales tax receipts. Let me go to Mario Lozoya and Ed Campirano, our guest as well. There's a lot of talk right now. There's some nervousness in some leadership that the hospitalization numbers are increasing to an uncomfortable level. Now, that was not the case 3 weeks ago when we reached out to y'all to start putting this program together. There is some talk, contemplation that maybe we might need to, either at a regional level and perhaps even at state level, might need to close down again. Mario, let me start with you from the Greater Brownsville Incentives Corporation. What might another 2-week shutdown, either for our region or the state, do to your efforts for recruitment?
Well, I think that it wouldn't be as damaging as one would think. It would be immediately felt through the retail tax. Like I said, there'll be some degree of change in the retail tax, so it will reduce our resources to operate. However, because of USMCA kicking off in July, we are expecting some reshoring. So from the recruiting standpoint, that's not stopping. We have countries that are looking to invest in the border region. And so us in the border region, whether it's Laredo, McAllen, the Upper Valley, Lower Valley, specifically obviously here, Brownsville, Matamoros, and the port, we need to continue doing what we're doing so that we can be in the best position possible to attract those reshoring companies.
So one of the conversations we had with you before the shutdown, I still remember, was that, what's the term, site selector. Remember that big conference, site selector, yes, USA thing that was supposed to take place? That's right. And you're part of that. And we were supposed to host people and sell this area. What's the status of that right now, Mario?
Right. So the Department of Commerce called us back, and they said that they're still going to, they canceled all of that initial agenda. They're still supporting us, the spinoff awardees, and Brownsville is one of them. And we will host a U.S. selection spinoff event virtual. So similar to what we're doing today, we will be able, the Department of Commerce will connect us with foreign direct investors, whether it's China, Korea, Japan, whatever. And we will be able to do something like this and hopefully attract them to come here to the border region. So we're already preparing contracting folks to build a website, to provide content. We will provide content about the island, about the port, about what we're doing downtown, whatever border region partners are doing, so that we can attract those foreign direct investors virtually.
Yeah, I apologize. I guess I should have explained. A site selector, this issue of site select, these folks are the ones who are international decision makers on setting up factories and industry. And Brownsville was, the Valley, and through Brownsville was supposed to be spotlighted as a potential site. Davis, I saw you raising your hand. You had a question?
Yeah, I would like to ask Ed Campirano of the port. Does he get involved in vetting the people who are taking a look at moving to that part of the Rio Grande Valley because of the port? But let me ask this instead. You can answer that if you want. The ship, what do they call it? Ship breaking business, where they take apart enormous vessels and retired Navy vessels. The largest operation of any port in the U.S., I think. Has COVID bothered that?
I'll tell you kind of in the general response to Sergio's question about what would it take to shut down the port. At the end of the day, I don't see a shutdown coming because the borders aren't being shut. Vessels are still coming. Trucks are still coming. Trains are still coming. The concern is that if it begins to affect your ability to have enough employees to deliver the services that are necessary. And that's what I think is really kind of, this second wave, people need to take it seriously. It isn't about more people getting tested, so therefore you have more confirmations. What worries me is the amount of people that all of a sudden need hospitalization, that are having to go to seek emergency care. That should be the telling tale that this thing is serious. And so the concern that I guess we would place is that, we've been very fortunate. We've been able to maintain the level of service at the current situation, current time and place, and pre-COVID and so forth, COVID. And so if it begins to impact our ability to keep the gates open, if it begins to impact our ability to service our customers, then we have a situation on our hands. But for the most part, the ship recyclers are perhaps an example of, they're impacted by global market, global demand as well. But, all of them have been awarded vessels. All of them have the ability to have more inventory. Part of the problem exists is, we all need the people in our facilities to be able to carry out the work. And some of the shutdowns that have occurred that affect them is when you shut down the factories that require the scrap steel, the foundries to be able to keep them busy. If that stream, if that chain begins to break, it impacts them. But for the most part, we have not seen it. Some of our businesses have had to curtail simply because the availability of staff or the demand for what they do has been curtailed because something else has happened elsewhere. But the scary part would be that you do not have the ability to provide the people necessary to maintain that level of service. And so the ship recycling industry is an important industry to our country. It serves a significant domestic volume of demand for steel, especially non-ferrous or steel such as copper and bronze and aluminum. At the same time, they are growing. I mean, they're getting awards for vessels. We've got private vessels in the port. It's not just a government program anymore. So, that industry is really, again, hit more by what is happening in the global marketplace when demand shrinks than what is happening locally. So it's all optimistic. It is there. It is strong. It's the ability to deliver the product.
Do
where
we
it's
have
needed.
new job
It
opportunities
makes it
then,
very
Chief?
hard.
Ed Campidano from our port. Do we have new job opportunities at the port as a result of all this activity?
Well, I mean, we will, obviously. I can tell you that when we talk about organic growth, like with the liquid terminal operators, that creates more opportunity. Keppel is still obviously in the shipbuilding. They never hit their numbers that they needed for total. So, they're looking, they're working on some very interesting projects that really kind of share a significant spotlight in our region on the ability to perform and deliver products that don't take place. We're competing in a market that things that happen at Keppel is the only place in the world where they happen at times. And so they're still working in that space. It may not be offshore rigs because that market is pretty much shrunk significantly, but there's still a market for Jones Act vessels. There's still a market for shipbuilding. And so diversity, and these guys are real good at it. Same thing goes for the ship recyclers. I mean, there's a meeting that was had yesterday about potentially the largest ship that has ever come into the port of Brownsville arriving. It's a private ship with a private major global corporation that would be coming to the port. Again, it means jobs, it means sustainability. So there is a lot of activity that doesn't stop behind the scenes, but the ability to kind of deliver the service that's necessary to keep things going, that's where at least I have a great deal of concern
Before
if we will be able to sustain that.
Ed Campirano, he's the director at the Valley's Port, the Port of Brownsville. Mario, I'm going to go to you for one more minute before we go pay bills again. The chief brought up the fact that Keppel's, Amphil's, they didn't meet recruitment goals. They're still short. They're still hiring people. And I remember a conversation we had with you several months back before this craziness hit us, how your passion is education and working with educational systems that we have to create that pipeline. And if you could, like in 60 seconds, give me an update before, during, where are you right now in that effort to create that synergy between our colleges, tech, ISDs, and creating that pipeline of workers from the Valley to industry?
Yes. So to tell you that in the case of Keppel, I think it's a perfect example that Capirano brought up. We signed a contract with them about a year and a half ago when they were preparing to build these LNG ships, that they would hire 700 people for that workforce. And the contract with us was that if they're Brownsville people, we would pay them a certain amount. So we signed that contract. They met that amount earlier than expected. So that amount was 700. So they've added workers already. And to tell you that we got a report from them 2 weeks ago, they have about 1,500 employees. Over 90% of them are from the Brownsville area. So that tells you that when you have these kind of contracts, it creates value in your community. So then when we present that kind of data to the school districts and the community college, it makes sense that they take part in the workforce pipeline efforts. So we partnered with the school district and community college, and so that they can include courses in the curriculum for the students that fit this particular pipeline.
Yeah.
So Keppel Amphil's Keppel Amphil's employees come and take part in advisory boards with the school district, for example, and they help them create these projects. Advanced welding. It's not just old school welding like we knew it back in the day. It's advanced skills, advanced welding. We've created an advanced manufacturing program at one of the high schools here at the ISD. So, and they partnered with CK Technologies as one of our advanced manufacturers here. So we've now come to the point where industry and the schoolhouse are coming together to together growing the pipeline that are local. And, as you know, we launched that We Grow Our Own strategy last year, and it's working great.
10-4. Thank you, Mario. Mario Lozoya is with the Greater Brownsville Incentives Corporation. Our contributors in this economic discussion working with COVID-19. Also, Barry Patel, former South Padre Island mayor and owner of hotels on the island. Ed Campirano, port director at the Port of Brownsville. I'm Sergio Sanchez. This is a special broadcast working with COVID-19 made possible by Bert Ogden Auto Group. And we say thank you to our audience as well at Classic 92.7 FM on South Padre. And a big hello and a hug and a kiss to our family in Laredo at 1490 AM KLNT.
.281 in Trenton Road is the location for one of the Mazdas, the Subaru and Volvo, and that's in Edinburgh. And then in Mission at the corner of Sherry Road and the Expressway is our other Mazda location and one of our Kia. Depending on the brand of interest, come to Edinburgh or come to Mission.
Bert Ogden, Mazda, Subaru, Kia, Volvo. They're serious about customer safety and their health as well.
For those people that are still a little nervous about getting out, let people know that we do offer complete online purchase process and home delivery, and also to reassure the customers out there of the dealer group's COVID-19 protocols. We have a constant sanitation crew at each location that does nothing but go through the dealership on a continual basis, wiping down all seating areas, work areas, touch points like handles, knobs. We sanitize all of our cars that come into service prior to the technicians getting in them, and then when they leave to go back to customers. So We have taken this very seriously, and we continue to adhere to all of the CDC guidelines and protocols to ensure not only our customer safety, but our employee safety. So again, rest assured, if you do choose to visit one of our dealerships, you are walking into the safest, cleanest environment that's humanly possible.
Yeah, you guys are constantly doing it. In fact, you check temperature for the crew every single day. Everybody showing up, you're checking temperatures.
Yep. All of the employees have to complete a questionnaire that states that they haven't had any symptoms of the virus, that they've not been around anybody who's tested positive or has had any of the symptoms, family members. They get a temperature scan so that we note that they do not currently have a fever. If they register a temperature above 100.4 degrees, they are required to go home and quarantine until the fever breaks. If it doesn't, then they're required to go get tested for the COVID-19 virus. We're not allowed to travel out of the country, so we don't travel to Mexico. And in the event that they've been on an airliner or traveled out of the area, they must quarantine. And we've been extremely fortunate. I mean, for an organization our size, we have remained relatively unscathed, and I think a lot of it has to do with our protocol. We want to ensure the safety and the environment. We do mandate that anybody that enters into our building must wear a mask. If you don't have one, we provide one for them. We also take the temperature of our customers when they arrive.
Jeff Malden, General Manager. From the Bert Ogden Group. Learn more at bertogden.com.
The dankest memes and the sickest plays.
What does that even mean?
On Views from the 956, Saturdays 9 to 11.
Powered by Esparza Pest Control.
On News Talk 710 KURV.
About 4 minutes to the hour. Working with COVID-19, talking about economic issues from the Rio Grande Valley. This is News Talk 710 KURV, also Classic 92.7 FM South Padre. And hello to all our family in Laredo, 1490 AM KLNT. I'm Sergio Sanchez with the KURV crew, and just a final thought from each of our contributors today, Ed Campirano, Barry Patel, and Mario Lozoya. In light of the increases in hospitalizations of late, a little bit of nervousness in the medical community that maybe we need to close down for a little bit, I want to ask each of you just a quick thought, about 20 seconds, 15, 20 seconds, quick thought from each of y'all. Ed Campirano, can we avoid another shutdown of the regional or Texas economy?
Well, I think you need to stay the course. Keep doing the things that are necessary and advisable. Don't take this thing lightly. Don't just say, hey, things are back to normal, let's just do it. That is not going to be the case. You're going to see cases hitting closer to home. They're happening already, whether it's in the workplace or in the family. And so people need to just keep doing what we were doing before this wave came and stick to the course. It's a long, it requires just doing what we are told it makes sense to do and keep doing it.
Likely no one more.
Yes,
sir. That's Ed Campirano. Mayor Barry, back to you. Just quick thought from you, a closing thought. Can we avoid a shutdown?
I think just like what Ed said, I would echo that everybody follow the rules. It all depends on how our medical facilities can handle this epidemic. Right now, it seems like we're in trouble. Wear your masks, follow all the protocols that the governor has pointed out. And if we continue to do that and go out only if you have to, I think we can curb this or at least flatten this. But it's very important that everybody follow those rules and do the things that avoids community spread. Don't get that big group together, and create all kinds of opportunities.
Yeah,
to spread
something to think about before the 4th of July weekend and all the pachangas. Everybody behave. Mario, I'm going to give you 30 seconds. Can we avoid that shutdown? Turn on your mic, Mario, real quick. You're on mute, brother. There you go. Turn on your mic again. There we go.
If I'm doing that, what both of the gentlemen said, I think most people get stuck in their world and their everyday routine, but they forget that they're part of this economy, and if together they're causing this condition, we need to be cognizant of the fact that this condition is hurting all of us economically, and we need to have that at top of mind.
Yes, sir.
Together we can get out of this.
Yeah, everybody cover your face, cover your face, cover your face. Keep your breath to yourself as best you can. I'm Sergio Sanchez with the KURV crew. Thank you so much for joining us for this special program, Working with COVID-19, made possible today by the Bert Ogden Auto Group.
History is unfolding, and you're listening to it on News Talk 710 KURV, Edinburgh, a station operated by R Communications, LLC.